Coming up on the wall today, EU leaders meet with Turkey in Brussels, reach a deal on how to resolve the migrant crisis. North Korea fires 2 ballistic missiles, the latest in a series of rocket launches, as tensions remain high on the Korean peninsula. And Guinea confirms 2 new Ebola cases almost 3 months after it celebrated the end of the outbreak. Hello and welcome to The World Today. I'm Temitope Fagbemi. European Union negotiators and Turkey have agreed on a draft deal over the migrant crisis, which must now be approved by the 28 EU leaders. Under the scheme, migrants arriving in Greece after midnight on Sunday will be sent back to Turkey if their asylum claim is rejected. In return, EU countries will resettle thousands of migrants from Turkey. Turkey will also have access to financial aid and faster EU membership talks. But at the start of the talks, Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu stressed that he wanted to keep a humanitarian perspective on the crisis.
Again, we are back in Brussels for a new summit. All these events shows how Turkish-EU relationship and Turkish membership to EU is important not only for Turkey and EU but for all international issues. First of all, I have to emphasize that we are working here in Brussels and in the past also in the previous summits for a humanitarian issue. For us, for Turkey, refugee issue is not an issue of bargaining, but an issue of value, all humanitarian values as well as European values. Turkey has received 2.7 million refugees without any significant assistance from anywhere. And today also I want to re-emphasize that Turkey will continue her policy to have this attitude of humanitarian perspective.
Because we've kept our own border controls, because we're out of Schengen, we won't be offering visa-free access to Turks as part of this agreement. We maintain our own immigration policy. Also, we've already said what we're going to do in terms of taking Syrian refugees to Britain, and that's underway, and we won't be taking more because of what's discussed here today. But if we could get an agreement that returned migrants from the Greek islands to Turkey, that would be good progress.
Andrea Ronsberg, the DW TV Channel's TV reporter in Brussels, joins us live on the program to tell us more about this. You're welcome to the program, Andrea. What more can you tell us about this deal that was reached in Brussels today?
It's done. We're now having final press conferences announcing more details. As you said, the outlines are clear. This agreement is to enter into force on Sunday. Turkey will take in all migrants arriving illegally on European shores, and in return the EU has agreed to speed up accession talks on EU membership for Turkey.
Now, when the EU returns migrants after Sunday, what exactly is Turkey supposed to do with them? I mean, Ankara is already hosting millions of Syrian refugees. How can it realistically be expected to take in more migrants?
Well, as Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu explained when he arrived at the summit venue this morning, Turkey is already accommodating 2.7 million Syrians, and they are doing so without any significant international assistance. Now, the EU has already pledged 3 billion euros in assistance to help Turkey take care of these migrants, and Turkey had asked for an additional 3 billion euros on top of that. As far as we know at the moment, Turkey is not getting those additional 3 billion euros, but the EU has pledged that the money, or has said that the money that's already been pledged, that will disperse quicker.
Now, Andrea, some activists have complained that this deal offends humanitarian law. How do you think the United Nations will react to this?
Well, it's true that the UNHCR, that also the Council of Europe, that organizations like Amnesty International, they had all warned that the mass returns in which individual asylum requests are not treated on an individual basis, that these kind of mass returns would be illegal. The EU, among EU leaders, Chancellor Angela Merkel of Germany have now stressed that there will be no mass returns, that each individual request will be treated on merit, will be evaluated on an individual basis. So that's basically what's on the paper. I'm sure that international organizations, that also the UNHCR, will be looking at this issue very closely, and that there might be cases that get taken to court.
Now, at the start of the talks in Brussels today, Prime Minister Ahmed Davutoglu stressed that he wanted to keep a humanitarian perspective to the issue. But it does seem like the crisis has evolved from a humanitarian crisis into a political bargaining tool. How did that happen?
Well, I would say that EU member states simply feel that they're completely overwhelmed by the sheer number of migrants. Remember that 2015 saw the arrival of more than 1 million people, and on a very local level, police, administration, communities, not just in Greece, but also in Austria, in Germany, in Sweden, said, we cannot cope with this anymore. We don't know how to deal with this. And in Germany, just to give one example, Chancellor Angela Merkel has drawn very, very severe criticism for her attitude that we can do this, we can master the flow of migrants. And it's not Germany that is seeing a surge of far-right parties. So politicians feel that they have to act, also maybe with view to upcoming election.
Well, Andrea, thank you so much for joining us on The World Today. In other news, once again, Paris attack suspect Salah Abdeslam seems to have escaped arrest. Belgian prosecutors say his fingerprints were found in a Brussels flat raided this week. Media reports say he may have escaped during Tuesday's police raid in which one suspect was shot dead. The raid was linked to last year's Paris attacks in which 130 people were killed. Abdeslam, a French national born in Brussels, has been the subject of a massive manhunt since the attacks in Paris claimed by Islamic State militants. And still talking terrorism, a 26-year-old American man who was captured by Kurdish forces in Iraq earlier this week says he traveled from Turkey to join Islamic State before deciding to escape. On Monday, 2 Kurdish militia officers said an American, bearded and dressed in black, had surrendered after being surrounded near the village of Golat in northern Iraq. The man's Virginia driver's license identified him as Kuwais Mohammed Jamal. More than 250 Americans have joined or tried to fight with ISIS in Syria and Iraq since 2011.
During my whole trip there, I didn't meet any Americans. And once we got to the place where we began the Sharia to learn about the religion, I didn't really support their ideology, and that's at that point. That's when I decided I needed to escape.
In the United States, a construction worker has fallen to his death from the 53rd floor of an unfinished downtown Los Angeles skyscraper. The building is set to become the tallest building on the U.S. West Coast upon completion next year. Police said the man struck the rear of a car when he fell. It was reportedly only the man's second day working on the project. The construction company said work on the project will not take place today to honor their workforce and out of respect. Councillors will also be available to help workers through the difficult situation. And still to come on The World Today, North Korea fires 2 ballistic missiles, the latest in a series of rocket launches as tensions remain high on the Korean peninsula. Please stay with us.